Welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am the professor, along with my co-host with the mostest, Tina. How you doing, Tina?
Hey, Professor. How's it going?
Oh, absolutely, positively awesome today.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Yeah, and if you believe that, I have a really cool beachfront property in Iowa. I would love to sell you.
Fake it till you make it, baby.
That's it. Yeah, that's what we got to do. So today we're going to talk about something that we're both pretty deep in or have done in our past. And that is what it's like to raise other people's children.
Yes, we've both done that.
Yeah, we have. It's definitely a very difficult thing, or at least I thought it was.
So start by telling your story.
Let's see. My story goes like this. My ex-wife, I met many, many moons ago. But when I met her, she had a 12-year-old girl and an 8-year-old girl.
Oh, I didn't realize they were that young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I met them, it was a interesting thing because obviously there was other men in their life at one point, but probably not as serious as we got because we ended up moving in with each other about 4.5 months after meeting.
Okay.
So I moved everyone into my condo at the time. And it was an interesting thing because once we got married, which was about 4 years later, obviously they were much older then, but I did sit them down pretty quickly and said something to them. I said, "You're probably not going to like me because I'm going to raise you like you're mine."
Right.
Which, I'm sure probably shotgunned him a little bit, but I just thought it was better to be honest. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to raise you like my dad raised me and my mom raised me. So you're probably not going to like me because I'm probably going to be pretty strict. And I was. Thankfully, my ex-wife did help that with backing some stuff up and vice versa. She was pretty good about telling me, look, that, don't do this or don't do that. And I knew my scope, like they're not your kids. So at some point you have to realize you can only go so far.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult. And with, dad was still in their life. So every 2 weeks, dad would come get them. And, there was things with that, although he's actually a really cool guy too. So I really can't shit on him. He probably at that time wasn't the greatest because of financial things and child support and a bunch of other things, but I thought he was a good guy.
Nice.
Yeah, we got along. But the daily thing was very difficult for me because the girls had never done chores before they came to my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that says a lot about my ex-wife. She was a single parent and I think she just wanted things done. So she did them all, which is, I get that. Which is never a good thing. And I understand it, but it's, I tried not to do the same thing with my son once we moved out. And I was a single parent. Like my son had to do shit. I wasn't going to let him just, have me do everything. So,
right.
Yeah, because you can't. So the first couple of years before my son was born, which was, it was 3 years. 3 years? Yeah, because My oldest was 15 when he was born. So it was about 3 years before he came. Those were hard years. The girls as a teenager was difficult for me because I had a certain view of what I thought they should do and where they should be in life. And she had a different view sometimes. My oldest stepdaughter, probably more like me. My middle one, very much like mom at the time. So we butted heads, and she was a hard nut to crack. But I raised them both out of the house. My oldest left early to be with her boyfriend. They ended up getting married and having a child way later on. So that worked out.
Nice.
My middle girl, or my youngest daughter, she stayed until she was 18 and after our divorce, and then she went and lived with grandma. But it was an uphill battle because, raising kids is also having a relationship with the person whose kids there is. And there's always going to be who's right and who's wrong. And looking back on it, they weren't my children.
Oh, you see.
So, I probably could have backed off a little more, but I wanted them to be good functioning members of society, or at least in my head. So I was kind of hard on them, and I think long run it helped, but those are all opinions, and just like this show, some of them are right and some of them are wrong. My oldest did send me a Father's Day card many, many years later, thanking me for kind of being hard on her and showing her that life's not easy. She ended up joining the military and realized that the people that are in the military don't love you. They're going to tell you to go do that shit, and you're going to go do it because you have to. If I'm saying go do this, it's because, I still love you. I just want you to be a better person. And she did say that, that I helped her along the way, and she understood that I wasn't trying to be hard on her. I was just trying to help, which was kind of nice. What about your story?
Well, my story is different. I raised a child who was in the foster care system, although we knew her family. The kids were taken away due to some deplorable living situations that were going on at the time. And so I had been with my boyfriend at the time for less than a year. July, August, September, October, maybe like 4 months we had been together before the situation came that the girl that I raised and her family appeared on our doorsteps. They were friends of a friend, or they were kids. Shit, how do I even say that? The mom had a relationship with one of my ex's friends. We'll just say that. Okay. And she had a child with him, and then they separated, and she had 3 more children, and then they tried to get back together, and that didn't work. But that's when the story started for us. So that's when we met up with our daughter, and we raised her. She stayed with us for like 6 months. Then we had to, we found a place for them all to move them out. And then within a year, they were taken away and never given back. So we fostered our daughter, and we did that for several years. And then we were able to adopt her at like almost, I want to say she was 12, almost 13 when we were finally able to adopt her. But so for the whole time that we had her, I was under stress thinking, is she going to go back? Is she going to be okay? How's the mother going to do it? Is the situation getting better? There was a lot of things. And so I never knew what the hell I was even doing. I didn't get the 9 months to prepare prepare for a baby. I didn't even get, the time that you would get to learn about your significant other and spouse. They kind of all were a package deal that came very close together. And I just, so when the kids were taken away, my daughter had asked me to go and get her because she was worried about what the other foster family was going to do to her, specifically the foster father. So I immediately went and filed to get her. And it took us a bit because my then boyfriend didn't want any children. He didn't want anything. But I felt compelled, like I had to do something because the child was asking for help. And so I just did it. And I remember sitting down with my mom and dad and telling them what was going on and telling them what I was going to be doing. And my mom was like, okay, I understand. Yeah, you should, blah, blah, blah. But then it was time to talk to my dad. And my dad was like, don't do it. And he said, that's the most selfless, the most disrespectful situation you could put yourself in. The kid's never going to give you the credit that you deserve. Like he just like let it rip because he was a foster parent to one of my friends back in the day. And the way that he, felt about it was very strong in his opinion to not do it. But anyway, I did it and we raised her for the next 10 years until she left before college and she hasn't been back since. And so, but in raising her, there was so many insecurities and different things that happened because first of all, she wasn't mine. I was never going to be her biological mother. I was never going to have that tie that goes with a parent to a child that, they have the same DNA. I didn't have that. It was very hard because my daughter at the time did not trust people. She did not have a good opinion of men. She had some issues that were very apparent that we had to keep her in counseling and do everything that we needed to do to keep her as sane as we possibly could. It was, for me, being who I was at the time, it was probably one of the hardest things in my life I ever had to do. I didn't think I wanted to stay with my boyfriend. And we were told, okay, you're going to have this kid for like 6 months because the mom has 6 months to get her act together. Right. So I'm thinking, okay, I could do anything for 6 months. But after the 6 months, I am peacing out of here. I can't do this. Like, it's too hard. And I don't know if I love the guy that I'm with because all we did was fight. We'd have these huge fights. And it was just trying to, to create the boundaries where we thought they needed to be. And we didn't agree on stuff. So I never pick the easiest of circumstances to do anything in either. So it was rather tough, and people don't get how, if your kid is doing good, what it takes for that child to do good, in school or in sports or in whatever they're in. Like it took constant work and to try to deal with things that you weren't even around for, abuse that you didn't inflict, or times when kids just went through some really shitty things. Like I had a really hard time listening to the stories and things that she had been through because it made me angry and it made me ache and it made me fearful. And, I never felt more insecure as a person as I did when I was raising her. There was a lot to that. I think it would be different if one parent was around, but in our situation, no parent was around. And when the parent was around, it was for visitation, and it wasn't to help out. It wasn't to help guide. It was more of a nuisance than anything. I believe it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
It was hard for me. I think some of the same things in your case that you just said. I mean, look, I had never raised a child before. I was doing what I thought was correct based on how I was raised.
Yes.
So you're doing what you think is right based on how your parents made you feel without even thinking about how they would feel. Mostly from the standpoint of, literally having two sets of parents, because their dad also was with somebody. So they would go there for the weekend and they deal with, I think it was a girlfriend at the time, but is now a wife. But even so, still that same thing of another person going, you need to do this or you need to do that or blah, blah, blah. And then coming home and me, bitching and moaning about something because I thought that they should do more.
Yeah. And there's so many things that you have to teach a kid that you have to be present for, that you have to do. It doesn't matter if you're the one that gave birth to them or if you're the one raising them. You have to be that specific person. You have to guide them. You have to hold them accountable. You have to be consistent. You have to be there all the time. You have to, any kid, if the kid is in your space, it's your responsibility to care for that child, period. I don't care if you're a coach, a teacher, a friend, if somebody that can't take care of themselves is around, you have to step up and just do it. And for me, I was really good at doing that. I was very good at keeping somebody safe. I would go toe to toe with anybody that got in her way or was anywhere close to being mean to her. And yet, we still didn't come out with the best relationship. My dad said it best, like all good deeds or no good deed goes unpunished. And, and he always said that in regards to parenting a child that was not biological. And man, he was right in so many ways, but yet I still was going to do it. Nobody was going to stop me from it. Right. There's still those lessons that Tina needed to learn, and she got them. She got a mouthful of it at times. And it was definitely one of the most stressful things I ever did. But I think that had I not stepped in, life for the child would have been so much worse. I don't know when she's going to understand that or when she's going to start believing that. Maybe she never will. Maybe her perception is such that she's never going to come full circle with this. But I have to believe that I did what I thought was best at the time, and I would do exactly the same thing if given the situation to do again.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't change anything. I think long run, what they've learned and I've learned helped me along the way. It definitely helped me raising my son as a single father.
Yeah.
Because my oldest kind of made a joke when my kid was born, probably 7 months, maybe a year in. And she said, you're going to be different with him because he's yours. And about 10 years later, she came to me and was like, oh yeah, I was wrong. You're just like the same as you were with us. And I was like, yeah, because what I believed to be a good parenting style was handed down to me by my dad. I turned all right. I haven't been in prison yet, and I'm old. And I say yet because you never know. But I've never been in trouble with the law. I never had any issues. I did all right. I'm a functioning member of society. And both of my girls are both functioning members of society with no issues and they've never been to prison and never done, anything. So I think I've done okay, but there is always something that you can look back on and go, what if I would have just done this? Or what if I would have just done that?
Yeah.
it's, we can cherry pick all that kind of shit until we're blue in the face, until we think, oh, I didn't think I did very well. I think I did okay. I did the best I could.
I think that, again, that's a perception thing, because I've talked to a couple of friends that were raising their children while I was raising mine, and their kids have even said, there were times when I wished you were my mom because of the things that you did with your daughter. And then even my friend said, well, shit, I wish that you were my mom too, because I didn't get to do that either.
Right.
So I feel like every bit that I put into it was done with the best of intentions. It was done with the most love I could possibly muster up. And I do feel like I did treat her like she was my own daughter. And I really saw that she was with me for a reason. And I enjoyed it, even though I struggled with it every single day. Because when you get a kid from foster care, you have to deal with the parents in and out. The other children that are in the family come in and out. You have to deal with visitation and social workers and court cases and mandatory driving here, there, and everywhere so that, the child could keep in contact with family. And then even trying to adopt is another issue, because you have to find both parents. And if one of the, like say the dad was missing, which the dad was at the time, we didn't know where he was. You have, they have to find him. And it just seems like there's one hoop after another that a foster parent has to jump through in order to support the child that they're raising. And then on top of it, just raising a child, which that was for me the fun part. I really enjoyed teaching her things and watching her go, because there were so many things in her path that would stop her. And so just trying to put things in her path to keep her going and to make life happen and to, keep her happy, teach her things, show her the world. That part I love doing. I loved it. She was a really good kid when she lived with us, and she tried very hard to please me. But I did not realize it at the time that anything even remotely negative I said was huge to her by leaps and bounds, way more than what I even meant for it to be, or, it came across so different. And I didn't realize the insecurities that even a child has when it's not the biological parent as well. And it was a lot of work and a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of going around doing things that I would have rather have not done. I wish in a way that I didn't have to do all those things, because I could have put more time into having fun with her and teaching her things and slowing our pace down a little bit to be able to enjoy the growing up years.
I'll go with that. I think that would probably be my only regret as well, is I think I was a little too hard on both of them. Again, I think, hindsight's 2020 with everything. We can always look back and go, oh, if I'd have just done this, or if I'd have just done that, they would have been different, or this would have been different. I mean, like I said, I don't live with any regret from it. But I definitely wish that we would have had a little more fun together. We were financially strapped at certain points. So that's maybe something, but not enough we should have gave them more, I think. And, but again, it's hindsight. They're both good, really good girls, and they've grown up to be good women, and so I think I did okay from that standpoint. And look, yeah. they have a good mom. Their mom is, I can't say anything, utterly bad. The relationship with their mom is on them now, because it's obviously been 12 years since I've been married. 13 maybe now. But I think that, I still talk to them. They're still in my life. I just talked to my daughter and her daughter. So my grandbaby, she just turned 8. I just talked to them on Sunday. So like, I still talk with them. I still try to make sure what's going on in their life. It's, I raised them for a long time. I kind of made a joke because my middle child got married, and at the time, I ended up getting asked to do the wedding because I got ordained to actually do it. But before that, so my ex-wife has got remarried. So if you can believe this, at one point, her first husband, her second husband, and her current husband were all going to be at the same wedding. So I kind of made a joke to her. I said, your current husband gets to walk her about 3 feet. And then I'm going to take over, and I'm walking her all the way down the aisle, all the way right up until she's going to get married, and I'll hand her off to her dad because I raised her more than anyone did. Mm-hmm. And my ex-wife was like, yeah, I can't argue with you there. And I was like, okay, well, in the end of the day, I was in the front, literally looking at my ex-wife with her current husband and her first husband sitting in the front row and me doing the ceremony. It was like Jerry Springer. It was wild.
Yeah.
But it did show me that at the end of the day, I mean, I must have did something right because they both still talk to me while I was involved in one's wedding. I think that as bad as I may have think I was, I think I did okay. But it's not easy.
It's not easy raising someone else's children, and anybody that thinks it is, I'm like, please let me watch you, because I'm going to pop some popcorn, put my feet up, and you're going to see how hard it is. It wasn't easy. There was nothing easy about it. And then I look back, and I was 29 when all of this started, and I was living at home before I was with my ex, and I was partying and going out and traveling and working a couple jobs. And, I was really good at being single. I didn't have a chance to really look at what I was even signing up for. When I do something like that, it's like, it's on a whim. Okay, I got you. I could do this. And I just do it and I don't look back. I didn't realize how hard it was on me as a person to do that. I mean, I have love for anybody that I have a connection with. That's not a problem. The problem was all the other stuff that goes with taking on the responsibility of raising someone else's child. You're never the parent completely, because there's always a parent there. You're always the one that's questioned, like, why are you doing this for me? You're always, I don't know. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. Like, there was a mom there, so I was like second best, even though the mom was screwing up and doing things that weren't beneficial to her, keeping her own kids. That's why she lost them. I still felt like I was never going to get that same amount of respect because the child did not come from my own body. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, that I went through a lot of that. It was very true. You get raised, or you don't get raised. You get treated a little differently when you're not the biological mother. And the help and the support and the everything I needed, from the social worker to the lawyers to my parents to the teachers, like it really did take a village. And I did have to rally everybody to be in my daughter's corner, because there was so much that she needed. And I knew that I didn't have what it takes to do all of it. Look, I never wanted to raise somebody else's kids. That was never that was not a dream for me. I knew I was going to have a shit ton of kids, and I was going to raise them myself. And that was going to be that. Lo and behold, did not have a shit ton of kids, raised somebody else's. Like, my life plan did a doozy on me, but I made the most of it, but I had no idea what I was getting into.
And, it's really weird too, because at this age that we're at, and, you start dating someone maybe now, let's say they're 7 years younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
They have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I know someone who I would say I would date. She has 3 kids. She has 4 grandkids. She's 46.
Yeah, that's definitely part of our reality. Yeah. I do believe that I could be a good step parent to somebody. I believe I could be a good grandparent to somebody. I just don't know if I would put all that I put into raising my daughter again, though. That doesn't, I would be to some capacity good, because I could come from an outside space, an outside source. I could have a different opinion of things and let the child know if I have a good relationship with them. But ultimately, I'm kind of cool because I don't have to take the responsibility if something goes wrong. That was a lot.
It is. And I think that, this person's kids are like 28, 26 or 7. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Or no, like 25. And then like one is almost 19. So like in that case, even if I dated them, I it's not my responsibility to be a parent anymore to them, because those are full-fledged adults.
Yes.
So you don't have to raise them. You have to understand them, I think. Mm-hmm. The grandkids, you are raising, but you're raising them from their parents' shadow, or at least I think so. You still have to let your children raise their own kids.
Oh yeah.
With some kind of shadow of saying, hey, I would like to do this, or this is what I would do. But at the end of the day, you're going to raise your kids the way you're going to raise your kids. So for me, it's like a weird thing, because like, if you start dating people, the first words out of this person's mouth were like, my kids. And I was like, look, I've been around. I've already done this. Dating someone who has kids I already did it. As a matter of fact, I married one. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I wouldn't do it again. And I think that some people look at that as it's a scary thing, or it's chaos. It's like, well, sure, it is chaos. Because when I got with my ex-wife, it was chaos, because it was something new that, I had to deal with people being up every morning, or being loud next door, or doing this, or stomping on the ceiling, so yeah, you become, this is why I got a little gray hair. This is from kids, stress. But I think I would do it again. Again, I think at this age, I'm not raising kids per se. Yeah. Unless I would meet someone a lot younger, but I think it's more just being a mentor. And I think hopefully that's what I did for the girls that I did the first time.
I believe that I did way more than mentor. I believe that I could possibly mentor now, but yeah, I just don't. Being a mom is hard freaking work. Like, you get blamed for everything. If your kid's a mass murderer, it's like, where was the mother? You know what I mean? It's like the mom always gets the shit end of the stick.
That's how it's because you always get the kid.
Right. And not only that, but even from the kid, you get all this shit. Like, everything that could possibly be wrong in their life, you take the beating for. Mm-hmm. And I found that, man, I hated that shit. If I could have given that back, not had that being a mom, I think I would have been much more grateful, because when the cat is dead in the middle of the street, your kid's screaming, and you want to hold the kid, but at the same time you want him out of there so you could just handle what you have to handle. Like, who wants to be a mom doing that? Or,
No, I agree. All those little things become big things. And sometimes, yes. And sometimes the big thing you can make a little more little. I did a lot of crazy things with my older daughter, only because I think that she did a lot of, like, she had a Spanish final that she needed to do. It was a video Spanish final. So I edited it down. So I think we were just more alike than me and my middle daughter. And there's really nothing you can do about that. There's still, it's like meeting somebody. We have our own personalities. Mm-hmm. I think my middle daughter now is much easier, but again, she's also, 28 years old. So yeah, it's not the same anymore. I don't look at her like this little girl who didn't want to wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Because now she owns a house and she washes her own damn dishes.
Yep.
So, I mean, I wanted them to do chores to be ready for the real world. And because I told them, I said, just so you know, like, do you know who washes your dishes when you get older? You do. Mm-hmm. And I think that they learned something from that, but it's not easy. I mean, and for the people that I know that are raising their own kids, it's hard enough. It's not easy. It's hard enough to say, hey, clean up your shit and stop putting dishes underneath the bed and get the baby diapers from under the bed because you're just too lazy to take them out. It's like, this is people that I literally know that had to do this. And it's stressful on them and it's stressful on their relationship. And then, there's so many things that go along with this. And then when they're not yours, it's a whole other thing because you can't freak out on them because you freak out on them and your spouse comes to you. Why are you yelling at them? Well, they fucking should have did this. Well, you shouldn't be doing that. And then you have to hand it off to them. And then they're stressed. And then part of your relationship stress because, there's so many things that are involved in raising other people's children. Not that it's not something that I got something from because I did. And I love my daughters and both of them are good people. And I'm glad that I did it. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I will tell you from the standpoint of life, it is hard.
That's an understatement. I can't tell you the amount of stress that having a child that was not ours put on our relationship. Not that it was all bad. I'm not saying that it was, but it put so much stinking stress and it really did divide us in a lot of ways because we had different ways of wanting to parent and we were different people. And, it was rough. It was definitely rough.
Well, we're going to give you, I'm sorry, keep going.
I did learn a lot about myself though. And I did manage to get a child who did like finish off school, got her master's and is doing her own thing. So for as bad as it was and as hard as it was, I think that the goal was achieved. She's in a situation where she doesn't have to continue the cycle. She could break it.
Yeah, it's a win.
It's a win.
It's a win. And I think both of us and a lot of people I know that have raised other people's children, it's a win. If you get them through whatever your life goal is, getting them out of high school, getting them on their own, getting them to a place where they can take care of themselves, and then whatever blossoms from there. It's a wonderful thing to say that we did this, but things come with that. Look, you can argue that. I think so. Like I said, I have no complaints and no regrets. I would do it again, knowing the exact same outcome. I would do it again because I got something from it, and I got good human beings from it who hopefully many, many moons from now, when I'm long gone, a story about me will come out to, someone else that says, this guy who married my mom actually ended up being a pretty good guy.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's really all I care about. That at some point somebody, at least in between the two of them, realized that I was all right.
Yeah, I get you.
Well, I guess we can say that's the last word, because I don't think we can top that one.
That works for me. And getting down to business.
Let's get down to business.
Hey, thank you, listeners, for being there and listening to our podcast. Please share us with your friends. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And please subscribe. You could listen to us on Spotify, Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook. And we're getting a bunch of listeners. So please continue and do share us so that we could continue to grow and continue to do this, because I'm having a good time.
I totally agree. And this is a show about opinions. Don't get it twisted. Just opinions. At least maybe not this show, but look, we like having a lot of fun here. Thanks for listening, and tune back in. We're putting out the shows. Keep your ears on. Share. Thanks, Tina. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Professor. We will.
Bye.